Did he tell you the story of getting the job and then deciding not to call me back that day at all?
He doesn't tell us
exactly. He's like, he gets the job and now he's not going to call me back anymore. So, anyway.
Well, what happened?
I gave him a call and said, hey, will you call me later? He sent me a text saying he'd call me in 5 minutes, and the next morning I had to call him again. So, gets the big job, and now he's a big timer. So, anyway.
Did he knew that's what the text was about, or was it?
No. It was. I'm just kidding. All right, let's. Yeah. Just.
You touched on it on stage about how Brian personifies the good traits about this club. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, on why you think that he is such a good representation of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody has their own interpretation of what this club means, but for me, growing up with this club as a little kid, knowing the coaches, the players that I did, then getting involved 15 years ago and sort of trying to carry the torch and being around people like Brian from those early days and some of the great players, great characters we had, being around guys like Alan Hinton and Jimmy Gabriel and Dave Gillett and all the former Sounder people who've made this club special. He's just an amazing person. He cares more about this club than anybody I know. He, for me, he's a fantastic leader in that he's willing to wants to push all the praise down to the people that work with him, the players. But if things go wrong, he's the first one to raise his hand and say, that's on me. And, for me, that's one of the traits of a great leader. He's great with people. People respect him. He's honest, clear in his communication. And, fans love and, more importantly, respect him. And so, he's got all of these, characteristics as a person that make him the right fit. And then he's a great soccer coach and has had numerous successes on the field, going back before, he and I worked together. So, again, personally, I couldn't be happier. He's my good pal, and I'm really happy for him.
What was the rationale behind announcing now into the back of the season?
We talked about it over the last month and a half. It was pretty obvious early on that he had garnered the support and gotten the the locker room and the guys, everybody in a boat rowing the same direction. The results followed, and we, ownership, management got together and said, hey, look, if this thing goes a certain way, like why are we going to wait? Why, we're certainly not going to go through a process of interviewing people if we know we've got the right man for the job right now. And so, over the last, I would say, a few weeks ago, kind of landed on decision, but and then sort of, tried to time it in a rational way. We also believe that Brian's very level-headed, so he's going to leave here tonight excited. Players are going to be excited for him, but the message first thing in the morning is it's back to work. We haven't done anything yet. We cannot overlook Dallas on Sunday. It's going to be a war, going to be a battle, and he'll, have the guys right mentally, and he'll be prepared mentally.
You said back in July that you guys were going to begin a coaching search immediately. Did you ever reach out to anybody else at any point down the line?
We didn't proactively go out and start a real search. We were, I think perhaps that was more of a figure of speech that, but the intention was to very shortly start a search. We got a lot of resumes, as you might imagine, but again, shortly after making Brian interim, it was pretty clear that things were headed in a very good direction. Once they were headed in that good direction, I think Garth and I both assumed and hoped that Brian would be the head coach. And for sure, we also, just from a practical standpoint, thought, okay, this would be really disruptive to be going through a coach search when our current coach is leading us, back up the standings and, and into a playoff position.
This notion of democracy in sports, and you've been a part of this from the beginning there, it's fairly unprecedented in our country anyway. Why is that so important? What does that do for the whole organization, the club, and ultimately the city?
Yeah, it is unprecedented. And look, we wanted our fans to take ownership of this club. We want our fans to feel more connected to ownership, to management, to the coaches, the players. We want to feel as though we want them to feel as though they have a voice, and that we're not just, it's not just a bunch of rich owners, a toy for a bunch of rich owners to wield as they please. We've always felt like this is a community asset. We are stewards of this asset for the fans, and we certainly have to make decisions along the way that are difficult and aren't always completely democratic. But where possible, we want to engage fans in ways that again makes it feel like it's their club.
Were you surprised at all by the reception today when Brian came in?
Not really. And again, I'm thankful, because if I had to say more than 3 more words, I would have been, in tears. But he's so popular in this community, and he's been involved and entwined with the Sounders for so long, 35 years. And again, for those of you who just Brian doesn't have an enemy in the community. Everybody loves him. Again, because of some of those characteristics he has as a person, and they know his heart is in the right place.
Adrian, you seemed very moved again on stage, and obviously you're very close with Brian. What was it like after you finally got a hold of him to tell him that he was going to be the full-time head coach?
Well, he didn't call me back, so no, he. Again, it was emotional when we finally, Garth sort of went through the process of, working out the details, but to be able to go in his office and say, dude, welcome. Like, it's been a while coming, but again, I was just so happy for him. Again, I maybe I've said it too many times, but I'm sure he said it's his dream job, and to be able to do good things for good people and have good people strive and succeed and have this sort of outcome is it's good for everybody.
How much does that culture translate to what actually goes on in the field?
I think significantly. Again, it starts with the history of the club. It starts at the top. It starts organizationally. But Brian and I have always been in alignment, sort of on what it means to be part of the Sounders club. He, of course, pushes that down within the coaching staff and the support staff and the players and I think it's sort of a virtuous cycle in that the fans then can see that and connect to the players, and it becomes, again, this family that represents this amazing culture that the Sounders have had here for 40 plus years. And it's manifested, when players go out and they're proud to play for a club and they're proud to play for the fans, and they know a bit about the history, and they know, quite frankly, a bit about the bigger goals and objectives of the organization, and they know that this is about legacy and generations and inspiring kids, and it means more. And again, I think back to Nelson Valdez and the goal he scored and the emotion and some of the things he said to me after that game about, he just, that brings a tear to my eye when a guy like that who's traveled all over the world and played for big teams cares that much about this club, I know we're doing some things right when that happens.
Adrian, you know Brian,
Last couple guys.
many years. When did you know that he was gonna be an MLS coach?
Well, when we hired Ziggy, I thought that Brian was capable of being an MLS coach. I honestly, I'm not sure what Brian would say. I think that the years with Ziggy have prepared him in a really meaningful way. Brian didn't really know much about MLS when we finished up with the USL team, and there's a lot of nuance to being successful in MLS. So and he learned from the master. He 7.5 years of learning from Ziggy, I think, was a really, really good lesson for him, and I think prepared him even more so to really be successful now.
Was he disappointed though in 2009 not to get the job?
Yeah, I think he was a little bit disappointed. I think he understood. He and I have always had a super honest relationship, and yeah, he got it, but I'm sure he was disappointed.